Welcome, everyone, to the November edition of the Ask Microsoft Anything for Windows in the Cloud. I'm your host, Christian Montoya, and thanks for connecting anywhere in the world like you can your cloud PC or AVD. So I have an amazing panel of guests with me today. They all have had some amazing announcements at Ignite. I want to make sure that we can answer your questions there for Windows 365. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we can get into the announcements. So Ben, if you want to start.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Ben Murphy. I'm a product manager on the Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop team. I traditionally have done a lot of work in the monitoring space, and today I've got an interesting new AI feature for basically allowing you to understand, are cloud PCs sized correctly, and are they actually used? So
I can go next. I'm Pavithra, and I'm also a product manager with the Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 space. Primarily, my focus has been on releasing the Windows app. So I'm here to answer any questions you have on the Windows app today.
Hello, my name is Seneca Friend. I'm also a PM on the Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 team. I primarily focus on providing higher configuration SKU and offerings to our Windows 365 customers. And at Ignite, we announced our GPU public preview, and that was one exciting news. So we're excited to talk about it today as well.
Perfect. Yeah. So Ben and Seneca, I think this is your first time on the show. Pavithra is a regular attendee, just jumping on, always answering questions. But we're glad to have you for your first time. So
thanks for having
us.
Yeah, I think you all already kind of mentioned a little bit about each of the announcements. And it looks like we already do have a question coming in. So I want to make sure we get to that right away while we have people on. So we have a customer that said, for the Windows app, I tried getting the Windows app on macOS, but test flight is closed. Is there another way to get it?
We are working on making sure we can allow more people in. So hang on, we will definitely make sure that we have more test flights available for public preview. Yeah, just hang on.
Yeah, I guess that's right, because they do have a specific limiting gate.
Yeah, they do have a limit, and this year the macOS iOS has been very popular, and so we are making sure that we are meeting the demand, but it does take time. So
perfect. Well, glad we have that on the radar, and hopefully we still get all the attention. I know that we're heading into the winter holidays, so I also hope that we still get all the usage, all the attention there. And while we're on the topic, Pavithra, can you describe the Windows app a bit more? The different platforms it's on, etc.
All right. So if you have been keeping up with the news, we have a new client that will work with both Azure Virtual Desktop as well as Windows 365. And we have called it Windows App because that's your gateway into anything virtualized Windows. And it is currently being released on macOS, iOS, Windows, and on the web. So if you have any of these form factors, please go ahead, try it out. Of course, right now, you're going to wait for the test flight because we had extraordinary demand on macOS and iOS. But you can continue to, validate it, verify it on the Windows and the web, and provide us feedback. The main purpose of this was for us to make sure that we have a unified experience across all the different form factors, all the different platforms, as well as making sure we are using the platform's native, I would say, capabilities to the maximum, but keeping the experience same. Additionally, we are also looking at seeing, in the long term, how best we can also provide parity across features across all these platforms. So go ahead and use it, provide us feedback, because only then we will be able to provide more for you, because we need to make sure you are actually adopting it and is actually worthy for your company and for your use cases, and then we will be able to provide more on each platform.
Yeah, so shameless plug there, and Pavithra already knows. And I forget if I've already mentioned it to you, to the audience, but my role in the team is the PM lead for the protocol all up, the graphics, the transport, all those redirections you do. And so, like Pavithra said, we want to make sure you don't just have a unified, UI experience, interaction with the app experience, but we also want to make sure that when you are connected to whichever resource, AVD, Windows 365, etc., that you get that same, camera redirection experience no matter which platform you're coming from. So that matters to me too. So in case that nudges you to file that feedback,
Exactly.
very near and dear to my heart too.
Yes. And how do you provide feedback, right? There are so many places that you can provide feedback. First and foremost, the most important thing is there is a feedback opportunity for you to do so within every client that we have released. So be it from the macOS, iOS, Windows, or web, there is a feedback icon there. Go ahead and provide feedback for the store apps. If you can provide feedback through their store, feel free to do so. If not, you can always take to tech community, and we are constantly looking at tech community and keeping track of what's the feedback there too.
Yeah, we do have that feedback portal at I believe it's the general feedback.microsoft.com. And the short link for that entire portal, I believe it's ak.ms/W365 feedback. So you can go there, submit your feature. And also, if you search for whatever you're looking for first, you can always upvote that submission. And we start seeing those trends and taking that in. So yeah, through the apps, through the feedback portal, all great ways. So I do want to make sure we jump. Oh, we've got another question. Cool. And this one's from X, formerly Twitter. Can the new Windows 365 GPU options really support animation and rendering work? What are the specs?
That's a good question. Our new GPU offerings are specifically designed to address customers that have image and video rendering, animation, and graphic design workloads. So we have 3 different GPU SKUs that we made available in public preview. One is our most basic SKU, which is targeting basic graphic acceleration workloads. And that one has 4 cores, 16 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of VRAM, and 512 gigs of storage. Our second SKU is more so targeting higher end graphic workloads that might need a little bit more power. And so that has 8 cores, 56 gigs of RAM, 12 gigs of VRAM, and 1 terabyte of storage. And our last SKU that we've made available is targeting workloads that demand high performance, have strict latency requirements, and basically just need the most optimal experience possible. And that has 16 cores, 110 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of VRAM, and 1 terabyte. One thing that is noted here in our documentation at aka.ms/win365GPU doc is that these specs defined in the SKU offering or the SKU names are the minimum specs. So it is very possible that if you purchase one of these SKUs, you may get more cores or more RAM or more VRAM than what is specified in the name itself. It is just a minimum that we define. Because we have a few different underlying SKUs that we're using, that can very well change based on capacity and things like that.
Yeah, so I think that touches a couple points, because even with the regular Cloud PC Enterprise SKUs, it's the same concept of whatever license you purchase, we say that those are going to be the requirements, the specs that you will receive. But obviously, Azure is huge. We have so many data centers. We try to be as consistent as possible, but you'll always get at least those specs. So that's really cool. I think one more thing I wanted to touch on from that question, Seneca, was, and I think you mentioned it, but the question part of it was, does it support animation and rendering work? So I know that there's different types of GPU workloads. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the 2 main categories of GPU workloads are graphics workloads and AI, machine learning, high performance computing. That's in another bucket. So our Windows 365 GPU offerings are specific to graphics workload, and that encompasses animation and rendering, image and video rendering, editing and 3D modeling and things like that. One of the biggest things that we're aiming to get out of this preview experience is to have a more defined list of which common applications customers use map best to which of our SKU offerings, so that by the time we go to GA, we will be able to definitively say this animation software is fully supported by this SKU. But we have done some preliminary testing and have seen that those workloads are indeed addressed by our SKU offerings.
Perfect. And so then how would folks sign up or indicate requests, interest in the preview?
Great question. If you are at all interested in joining the Windows 365 GPU preview, you should go to aka.ms/win365gpu. And that is just a Microsoft form to fill out that shows that you have interest, and you can tell us which SKUs you're interested in, what your workload is, what size workload you have, and we can get back to you on the details of the preview.
Perfect. Sweet. All right. So we've talked about the Windows app a little bit, talked about GPU a little bit. So Ben, I want to talk to you about you mentioned some new AI-based features that's coming in for the admin experience, I think it was. Can you just talk more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are launching our first AI-powered feature to try and enable people to understand, are devices the correct size or not? So it seems like a pretty straightforward question, but a lot of times I think people have either evolving workloads or need a little bit more flexibility with exactly what they're doing with the cloud PC. So this feature is designed to tell you, is a cloud PC oversized, meaning you actually have too many resources? Is it undersized, meaning you could get a better user experience with a more optimal configuration? Or is it used at all? Which I think are some of the kind of key questions that administrators want to understand about their environment. So we're in a private preview for that right now, and really interested in kind of seeing people's opinions about it.
Perfect. Yeah. I've definitely seen that report a little bit. It's really it's actually very eye-opening on who's using it and who's not.
Yeah.
So I can attest to that. I so far I like it. I think it's great.
Perfect.
Let me see if we have some more questions in the chat. So going back, okay, so here's a question. Actually going back to GPU, where do we provide in the docs or anywhere what the pricing for the GPU offerings are, like while in the limited public preview?
So we aren't providing or disclosing pricing information publicly. That is because the pricing is subject to change based on how the preview goes. And so we are basically disclosing pricing to customers under NDA. So again, if you fill out that interest form at aka.ms/win365gpu, we will be selecting customers from the pool of those who fill out that form to join the preview. And we will also select customers to just disclose more information to, and that includes our pricing. So we won't publicly disclose it, but we will reach out to you and give you more information so that you can be well informed before you get involved in the preview.
Okay, perfect. So a question that we have from LinkedIn: when provisioning new cloud PCs, can we notify both the admin and the user via email that the cloud PC is now ready for use? I don't want to refresh Intune to see if it has completely provisioned yet. Does anyone?
Yeah, so this by the way has been a long time asked by customers. It requires, unfortunately, many updates to multiple components on the infrastructure as well as all the Windows app clients out there. Definitely something that is we understand the requirement quite clearly. It is in our backlog, and you will get to know more when we are ready to go live with it. But it is currently in our backlog, and we do understand that it is a very, very important scenario for admins, so that they are not constantly refreshing the Intune portal to figure out if things are ready and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know that within the Windows 365 admin experience, we've built in the alerting capability. I forget if it's in public preview or if it went GA. Someone can correct me. But those alerts that are in Intune are more catered toward the scenario of I want to know when something gets into a bad state. So I know that we have an alert for one of my Azure network connections is now no longer healthy. And it has various communication options. I believe it's email or text. And then also another one I remember was that like a number of cloud PCs go into grace period, because you can set your own thresholds too. So I do know that our alerting that we do provide right now is more catered towards the I was in a good state and something might be in a bad state now. So as we, as our team considers, this kind of feature, I think initially we're more focused on the okay, now we're not in a great state. But I can certainly see how this could potentially be involved in that same, in that same bucket of alerting. That way, again, you're not having to just constantly go back and check. I constantly do that too when I spin up cloud PCs for for you all.
Very true.
So I totally understand. Okay, so next question. So for something like, so this is GPU related. So for something like game development or high performance computing or ML, should we use Azure VMs instead?
Yeah, so currently, like I said, with our Windows 365 GPU offerings, since we aren't addressing those workloads, probably using Azure Virtual Desktop to get those GPU VMs that are specifically targeting like AI and ML would be the best route to go.
Yeah, and I know that when you do have your own Azure subscriptions, it's pretty simple to see which GPU options are available in your region, and it's just against your quota. So it should be pretty simple to see the availability for you. I think also probably not a direct solution for the game development or high performance computing or ML yet. But just a reminder, we do have a partner offering, a little sibling offering of Microsoft DevBox. That's a first party service in Azure that makes it really easy for you to spin up dev environments and create these pools with images. So if you are doing more software based, you can take a look at ak.ms/devbox, and that could be another solution for you. Although maybe not for the very GPU intensive things yet, but could have the additional flexibility. They do have some other SKUs that I believe we don't have yet in the Windows 365 offering. So definitely take a look. While we're on that topic, Seneca, I think we've been talking about GPU, but also I think it was back in October. Didn't we release more SKUs for cloud PCs for Windows 365? Can you explain those?
Yes. So on November 1st, we went live and with 16 core SKUs. So we've introduced 2 more SKUs that really are to address the gap in higher memory configurations. So we have 16 core, 64 gig of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, and 16 core, 64 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage that we've made available. And again, we had a lot of customers that reached out saying that they had specific applications that had higher memory or higher spec requirements, and they needed a little bit of a beefier machine to be able to handle those applications. So those new 16 core SKUs went generally available on November 1st.
Perfect. Cool.
Yep.
So Ben, I have a question for you. You're talking about the new private preview. If a cloud PC is the right size, essentially.
Mhm.
How will customers receive that? Is that just gonna be part of another report? Is it gonna be part of some of the various like Copilot offerings? Do you have any more information there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to start with, it's going to be a dedicated report called Cloud PC Recommendations. And from there, we will be integrating it into some of the Copilot offerings that we're looking to launch in Intune. I don't have a definite time frame for that right now because we're still kind of working out the details of entry points and what kind of experience we want people to have in Intune. But the intent is to provide that as effectively information that you can harvest through either Graph API or through Copilot. So you can have a more natural language experience. But to start with, it will be a report. The good news is you don't really have to do anything. We'll just turn it on. It doesn't require any additional data collection or anything. So that is something that we can basically turn on for most folks in a public preview next year.
Perfect. Yeah, I like that most folks will be able to use it without, doing too much else. I know for a while I was using the connectivity report and just seeing regular usage, and this seems just like the next step of that, of converting it, now including details about the size. So that's awesome. Sweet. Okay. One question from Henrik on the tech community. Any plans on supporting scaling plan diagnostics to be sent to log analytics? According to documentation, storage accounts and Event Hub are the only two supported ways to send reports.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So right now we are in a private preview for a log analytics based diagnostic output for scaling plans. We're looking to GA that, I believe, at the top of next year. I might have to look a little bit about the timing there. But the idea would be that you would have the capability to get diagnostics in log analytics. And then we would also offer an additional report in our Azure Virtual Desktop Insights offering that would provide you some visibility into performance characteristics and just general outcomes for your scaling plans. So the intent would be effectively at the top of next year to bring that to log analytics.
Okay, perfect. And then, because I think that was a little bit more the Azure Virtual Desktop focus. Ben, do you have more information on like the Windows 365 being able to forward diagnostics to log analytics? Because I know Intune has a general solution and you can choose which data to send. Is Windows 365 plugged into that?
Kind of. So we have started with security auditing, and that's the kind of default set of stuff you can forward to a log analytics endpoint. I believe in time we'll evaluate whether or not we can add additional diagnostics, or let's say maybe cloud PC performance information. But for the moment, we're kind of starting just with the security content. That, I believe, might be in a private preview at this point. I would have to validate that, though. But that's kind of the shortest term log analytics output.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember that some folks, like some customers, when we launched, were asking how to integrate with that. We're like, oh, we'll get back to you. Ooh, this one. Oh, I love this question because I'm curious too. For GPU, does resizing support? Oh yeah, does resizing support GPU Cloud PCs? I guess we'll start with that, and then we'll get to the other details. Do you know if resizing does?
Yeah. So in short, no. Resize is not supported for GPU at the moment. Currently, like I said, GPU SKUs are just in a public preview right now, and it's kind of small in scope. So as we continue to expand and get feedback from customers, we will add in more functionality like resize that is critical to customers' business function. But currently, resize is not supported for GPU.
Okay, cool. I guess it doesn't have to be like a full yes or no, but do you think that would come in for GA, or is that something where it kind of just depends? GPUs are limited anyways.
It kind of just depends, because we haven't fully focused on what that would look like implementation wise and what are the core scenarios for that. I've heard of customers needing it and asking for it, but we kind of just need to sit down and figure out what that would look like. So it's not currently within our roadmap for GA, but it just depends on whether or not we get sufficient feedback in the preview suggesting that is critical.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And maybe a curveball, but hey, Ben, do you know if the GPU starts showing up in your reports?
That's a good question. To start with, no, they don't. But that, I think, would be a very reasonable thing for us to add in. So we're looking to improve / refine the model a little bit for the recommendation system. And I think GPUs would make a lot of sense to basically say, hey, is there workload going on here that might be a little bit better if you happen to have a GPU enabled cloud PC? So yeah, I think that would be a great addition and probably something we could do in the shorter term. For now, though, it not included in the recommendation output.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's especially because it's going to be one of the, more expensive than the standard enterprise SKUs. I could totally see people wanting to see, yep, overpowered or not right size, but I'm spending the money. Let's make sure that they're productive.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be cool. I think the one last question on the resize one was, in general, I can't seem to downsize storage / disk space. Does that require reprovisioning? Does anyone? I believe that sounds like a true statement because last I checked, we still hadn't supported downsizing disk space because we didn't want to, have us accidentally delete data, and we didn't want to be doing the whole what's it called, whatever the disk operation is. But I think we should want to be involved in potentially losing customer data. So I think that's why we don't support going down disk space, but we support the other ones of vCPU / RAM.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then, another question from X. How can I learn more about upcoming AI features in Windows 365? I only see one paragraph in a blog last week.
I can kind of give a little bit of an update there. In short, we're still kind of evolving our thought process on how AI is going to influence what we do with Windows 365. Just to give you kind of a quick idea, the newest feature that we've kind of introduced in private preview is AI-based, this Cloud PC recommendation system, which is based around identifying workloads and sizing appropriateness, that kind of thing. Then the next steps for us are kind of two different pathways. One, analytical AI, which is an expansion of some of our ability to provide insight about things like troubleshooting scenarios, like what might be happening on a cloud PC that's causing problems, that kind of thing. Then, and this is kind of in keeping with the broader Copilot strategy, introducing some Copilot enabled scenarios for Windows 365 that would enable you to take some administrative actions, or, and I think this is really where a lot of the value is, have the ability to ask questions about an environment, and rather than have to go through like a bunch of reports or things like that, just have summarized output of, here are things that we think that you should do in order to make a better user experience or to save on your total cost of ownership, or, that kind of stuff. So that'll be arriving in the shorter term. There's a little bit of uncertainty, I think, in terms of like what the global entry point is going to look like for Copilot and Intune, but we, I think, should have that more fully baked probably at the top of the year.
Perfect. Yeah. So everyone, just stay tuned. Stay tuned. Well, whenever we have announcements, we'll definitely let you know on our channel. So cool. So then we have a question on the Windows app. And it's actually kind of related to the whole test flight for macOS. Is there a way to like upgrade your app to the new Windows app? Is there a way to roll back? Is that platform dependent? How will this all work?
Oh, this is definitely platform dependent. The good thing about the Windows app is right now it's available only through stores for platforms like macOS, iOS, and Windows. And for the web is always updated to the latest version. There is no rollback or auto update there. We ensure we are constantly refreshing it. With the store apps, we are constantly churning out security features, and come New Year onwards, we will also start, churning out features in our public preview. And so with the store apps, you will be allowed to do auto update. You don't have to, download anything or uninstall or any of those things. So auto update works as is for all the store apps within test flight as well as outside of that. If you want to roll back, the only way you're going to roll back, and the reason you'll roll back, is if you don't want to do the preview version and you want to use existing apps which are already GA and available. In that case, outside of Win365, all you need to do is go back to your installed, let's say, remote desktop app or AVD Store app to access your resources. And for the Windows 365 Windows client, you'll just have to toggle, essentially, to say, no, you don't want to use the preview version, and it'll go back to being the GA version that you have been using all this while. So very easy. Within the app itself, you can do everything, or you continue to use existing installed apps if you want to roll back.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because on the Windows, it is kind of already built into the Windows 365 app if you've been using that. And I've kind of likened it to the Teams experience, where they had their original Teams client, and then they've come out with their new, really more optimized, they call it, the new Teams experience. And you can hit the little toggle to switch over, hit the toggle, switch back, and it's just so seamless. So I'm glad that for the Windows one that we have, that we're able to do that. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
One last question I had. You mentioned that currently they're all available through the stores. Are there going to be offline ways for admins to distribute the Windows app when it's GA?
So we will be supporting MSIX install for the Windows client. Currently, it's only available through store, but we have got a lot of feedback that the customers want offline download. So we will be making that available at GA for the Windows app.
Okay, perfect. And then
and we only support MSIX at that point, but we are always open for feedback. So keep the channel open. Let us know if you need anything else, and then we will obviously take a look at it.
Okay, perfect. And for non-Windows, I think we've only ever done the store, right? I don't think we've.
We have only done the store. It's just easier to work with the store, as well as ensure that we are constantly updating the app and the customers get those updates. Otherwise, we will have to build mechanism, and more often customers are used to stores and the way they work, so it's easier to work with existing infrastructure and mechanism for auto updates. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and the more other custom stuff we build, the more and have to maintain, the more it takes away from our engineers being able to work on features that you're asking for. So yeah, it makes sense that we're trying to stick to the main distribution methods when we can.
Yes, and I do want to do a shameless plug in here. I know customers love to, keep using the same version that they're used to because they have baked it in, they have looked at app compat, all of those things. But if there is a new version available, I want to make sure that you are using it. We have a lot of security and reliability updates that we push through with versions. So for you to have better connectivity and better user experience, and I'm not talking only about UX, I'm talking about the underlying protocol as well as any other reliability work that we push with versions. For you to be able to make use of it, you will need to upgrade. So do make sure that you are almost always on the latest version. If not, make sure that you're not 3 versions away, because we do constantly churn out. We do see a drop in connectivity reliability if you are on older versions, so that will affect your user experience. So if you can keep them updated, that'll be great.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because we do know that so many admins verify all the apps that they push out to the users, especially when they manage those devices. But yeah, what Pavithra mentioned, our teams work together to make sure that if there are any connection drops, we look at it, we address it, we build them into the protocol and the clients. But in order to receive the benefits, you do have to be on the newer version of the client. So just a little Pacific time morning reminder to take a look at the newest version, test it out, and please push your users to use it.
Yes.
All right. There was one last thing that you mentioned, Pavithra, that I wanted to follow up on. You mentioned potential rollback scenarios. And my question was, while the Windows app is in public preview right now for macOS, iOS, Windows, and web client, are we, is Microsoft have like full support for them while they're in public preview, or is it like limited or no support? If you have that info.
We normally provide support for any kind of feature that we go out in public preview. So yes, we do have support for these platforms. Having said that, though, we do not want you to use it for, we don't want you to adopt it at scale in production. We do want to make sure that you're testing it, validating it, maybe have smaller test environments so that if there are issues, it's not affecting your larger production environment. Once we are closer to, I would say, general availability, we will make sure that some things available in our roadmap, and then you'll be able to, slowly start scaling up. But then, yes, we do support all these products that are out there in public preview. We do have also documentation that call out what might not be supported, what the current known issues are, and what the gaps are to other clients that are available on the same platform. So do take a look at our documentation, because we do have information on exactly what are the features that are fully supported and what our known limitations are.
Perfect. Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I was like, Pavithra, what's that link? And it's the ak.ms/Windows app. Yeah, because you mentioned that it's also it's a converged experience, not just for these two cloud-based services of Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, but it's going to support all the other like remote desktop services. So I'm excited to see that all converge and be supported in the app. Okay. Oh, actually, a question we do have related to the Windows app. How does the Windows app work with external webcams and speakers? This feels like a combination of me and you, Pavithra. Let's do it.
Yes. So if you have used, for example, the Windows or the web app before with Windows 365, we have been supporting the camera and microphone for a while, and we continue to do so. There is no difference in what we supported earlier to what we support now if you've used the Windows 365 Windows as well as the web app before. Primo, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of same, and I'll extend that a little bit. We've been supporting it for a while. We do have the camera redirection. So if you do have an app inside your AVD Cloud PC experience, if you open the Photos app or anything that asks for a camera, you can see your local camera, whether it's, again, external or built into the system. In terms of like the speakers and maybe even microphones, we've heard a lot of interest in being able to have your full, peripherals, whether it's Bluetooth headphones, whether it's wired speakers, whether it's the integrated, speakers in your desktop, laptop, and being able to actually select out of that device list when you're in that remote session and when you're in that experience. So we've heard a lot about that. That is a very high top ask, and we definitely are working to make that experience available. That way, it's just another piece where that Cloud PC AVD experience just feels so normal for the user. So I'm really excited about where that feature is going. I can't wait to use it because whenever I'm on my work day, I'm just in my Cloud PC and I launch a music app, and I want to be able to change it every once in a while to my headphones or to my integrated speakers. So I'm personally excited and can't wait for that to be out there for the world. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, another question. This is for Seneca. Are the GPU SKUs available for Frontline or other editions of Windows 365?
So currently, the GPU SKUs are only available for Windows 365 Enterprise Edition. We are planning to have a fast follow support for Windows 365 Government once Enterprise goes to GA. We don't have any current roadmap or timeline for supporting Frontline, although we have received a lot of feedback from customers saying that that is something that they'd be interested in. So again, please fill out the interest form and express that in the comments section that Frontline is something that you're looking for. And the link is on the screen there, aka.ms/Windows Win365 GPU. And having that information in the form will help us be able to relay it to our team that Frontline is also a big ask for the GPU SKUs.
And then, Seneca, do you have any information on Windows 365 Business, if there'd be a GPU SKU for that offering?
So again, we also don't have any timeline for supporting Windows 365 Business. I haven't heard as much or any feedback actually from customers requesting that. So that would be a use case that I'd be interested in learning more about. But currently, there's nothing in the pipeline for supporting business.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's so interesting because obviously with enterprise, we do work with a lot of big customers. We have a lot of account managers, and we get a lot of active feedback from them. And it's really interesting because for business, we sometimes we're not necessarily as close in terms of that feedback with them. But it does seem interesting because these would be smaller organizations where, I know that we have some designers and they use Figma day in and day out. And I'm imagining there's like these very niche, organizations, like 5 people organizations, and like we offer, design services, or we offer, CADing services. So I'm not surprised I heard the feedback, but I'm really curious. Maybe we lean in and we'll start hearing some. I'd be curious. I know that it's a lot of work to get GPU anywhere. So
once again, like we want to hear people's feedback. So if I know, like you said, we might not be tuned into the right channels there, but I do want to make sure that we are supporting it for the people who need it. So I could definitely see the use case from what you just mentioned.
Perfect. Okay, so John from the tech community, from our previous discussion regarding alerts, is there a pipeline? Sorry, in the pipeline, is there a notification that could be sent to the end user to notify them the cloud PC has been provisioned? It'd be great to have the ability to customize the message to include company branding, how to connect, FAQ, etc. So I think this kind of relates to Pavithra. I know the discussion we were having earlier, that this was actually one of the one of the first features we had heard about way back before Windows 365 was ever released, in terms of notifying the user. And I remember getting the feedback and hearing that, man, there's so many things that customers want to provide in the email, and it just varies. So yeah, whether it's the tenant logo, a support email, a description, we can never get the right combination there. And so we wanted to make sure, like, okay, let's shelf that while we really try to work the experience to make sure it can work for everyone. And so I do think that you have a really good point, John, in that if we just had a notification that was sent to the admin, that you can send a mail immediately afterwards, because that way you can customize it yourself. I could totally see that. I would use that too. But right now there's nothing. We don't have that yet. But definitely acknowledge the scenario. It makes sense. I don't know if there's anything else anyone else want to add, but it makes sense to me. This one is tech community as well, but from Robert. Will there be regular updates for the Windows app, or just when needed, with release notes, links?
Good question. So with the Windows app, we are definitely going to be giving regular updates. Most of the time, it's going to be security updates for now, because we just went live. We're looking for feedback. So any security items or connection reliability is what you're going to be getting with the current release. I think come next year, we will slowly start adding new features to it so that we can have, a better user experience, as well as optimize existing features. all that information is going to be in our documentation with the what's new. So every month we will have some new features or new updates, and you will be able to see all of that in our what's new in our documentation. So I would suggest you keep an eye out on that. Regarding the release notes and links, I personally haven't thought about that, but I will take it back to the team and see whether we can have that included also as part of our monthly releases.
Yeah, and I do want to
Suggestion.
highlight, Pavithra. I know that the team went through so much effort. So like for the documentation for the Windows app, the ak.ms/Windows app, I know that so much effort went into creating this separate, documentation site, because all of the user experiences were kind of buried in the different Windows 365 or Azure Virtual Desktop, documentation learn sites. So I know that you all went through a lot of effort to put this together. So I just want people to kind of bookmark that, because that's going to be that one-stop shop for how your users are going to interact and connect to the resources. So a lot of effort went there. So kudos, Pavithra and team. That's not a small task.
Very big task.
Yeah.
A lot of people working on it. So yes, please go try that out. Our documentation is really very exhaustive. So please go take a look at it and
perfect. And then one thing I do want to plug is, we've been talking about the Windows app. If you're, joining us live now, no better time to, take a look and try it out than right now. So you can go ahead and go over to that new URL, the https://windows.cloud.microsoft. Test it out, connect to your Cloud PC if you have it, connect to your AVD resources too if you have them. So go try that out. And then you can also give us live feedback, since we'll be here for the next 15 minutes. Shameless plug. All right. Here is so feedback from the tech community. I think, feedback from the tech community. Watching videos is hit or miss. I'm using the video redirection extension in Edge. Are there any improvements on the near-term roadmap that you can share? So, great feedback. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so for others, this is the multimedia redirection, shorthand MMR, specifically the video redirection for videos loaded in the web browser. And this applies to Chromium-based browsers, so Chrome or Edge. And so definitely acknowledge the feedback. That is, we've heard similar feedback, and that is our goal, to make it more seamless, to make it just a native experience where you can't tell that the video is really being piped through from your remote session to local. So we're actually like consistently working on the reliability, making sure there's less artifacts and there's less, like what's the word, like color displacement or weird issues there. So we're constantly working on that. So we don't have any like specific like tangible features that we have, for the next 2 or 3 months, but we're constantly looking at reliability to make it to make it feel more native. At the moment, it is only supported in the Windows desktop clients. So again, whether that's the Windows 365 app, the Microsoft Remote Desktop, installable one, or the Azure Virtual Desktop Store app, the new Windows app, the Windows desktop apps. It is only available there, but we are also trying to see how we can bring it to other platforms. Probably the first one that we're thinking of is the macOS app, just in terms of like that desktop experience where you would be loading more video content in your browser. So really, those two things of just, we are looking at the reliability and trying to remove any weird artifacts, and also looking at bringing it to the other native platforms. So we're looking at it. Nothing specific like for the next 3 months at this time. But great question, and thank you for the feedback. A question on LinkedIn. I thought I heard something at Ignite about the ability to use your own encryption keys, but can't find any more info. Are there any details you can share? So I believe this was the customer key solution for Windows 365. Do any folks here have more information on that? Because I only have like initial small background.
Nope.
No. So we'll have to follow up on that one. I know we did release a lot of documentation for Ignite. Maybe it's kind of buried in the security info in the Windows 365 docs. So we'll have to get back to you. But as a high level, this security solution is based off of the larger Microsoft 365 encryption solution, the same solution that can encrypt your like SharePoint sites, Outlook, email and Outlook Exchange email boxes, other things like that. So it's built into the larger M365 encryption service, and it's essentially a global. For your tenant, it's a global service, and you turn it on or off, and you do some sort of registration with Azure keys and such. So it's more than just a small Windows 365 feature where you just upload an encryption key. It's part of a larger M365 feature set. So we'll have to get back to you on those docs. And yeah, we'll so this is on LinkedIn. Okay, we'll try to get back to you so that you have that information. But thank you. Yeah, thanks for the question. From X, any tips to minimize latency with cloud PCs? Feeling laggy lately. So I guess that depends. Just generally, we've been working really hard with the protocol itself, the protocol and the clients, to support UDP connections along with TCP, since UDP is a little bit more lossy. Frames won't stack up, and then you'll feel the lag a lot less because you'll just get incremental frames, the ones that you can actually receive. So we built different ways to do that. So if you mentioned feeling laggy lately, so you've probably had a pretty solid experience, weeks before, a month before, and now it's feeling weird. I'm not sure if there's any immediate solution to that. One thing that could also be happening is every once in a while, as silly as it sounds from an IT perspective, but you can turn off and turn back on your cloud PC. The only reason I say that is because the AVD agent needs to be doing stuff on the cloud PC in order to process the connection. Even the cloud PC will need to actually be encoding all the frames to send it back over to you on the client side. So a little restart will probably help. Otherwise, maybe there's just general network congestion, maybe through the ISP. We do have some other tips on all-up networking, whether individual user or your organization, at ak.ms/Windows 365/networking tips. But yeah, from the user side, there's maybe not as many things, but from an organization side, depending on the reports that you see in Windows 365, or if you have an Azure network connection as an admin, you can probably look through that a bit more to see if there's any trends. But yeah, from the user side, there's probably not too many things. The only other thing I'd recommend is if you are using a VPN, that can usually be that can introduce lag as well, because instead of going straight to the cloud services, you're being routed through the VPN, through the corporate site, all the way back out. So if you're able to connect that VPN, or if you have to use a VPN, but your performance has degraded since then that's something where you'll want to work with your local IT admins to help optimize that traffic, and that previous networking tips URL will be able to have all that information to help those VPN-based connections, and that way you do not introduce additional lag.
And as an end user, if you are actually noticing this, you can just take a look at the connection information. I believe we have it in both the Windows as well as the web I'm not sure whether this is available on iOS, macOS, but it is definitely available in Windows. Take a look at the connection information, see if UDP is being used, what is the nearest gateway that you're hitting, and that can tell you information on whether you're using VPN. Or whether you're using TCP for connectivity, and check whether your UDP endpoints are reachable, because many times you're in networks where there's firewall and the client cannot really reach UDP endpoints. So we kind of end up using TCP. So check these things, and then you'll be able to get more information on what really is happening, whether it's your own bandwidth that's causing the lagginess or whether there's something else going on.
Yeah, that's a great point, to use the networking information, because then you can also, probably correlate it, going forward, you can correlate it. Yeah, you can't really do historical, but you can see going forward, if you can associate that to, the latency, bandwidth, etc. So, so I think we actually have a couple more announcements. So I want to just with the panel here, I want to wrap up. Any last tips? Any call to actions for the listeners for each of you? I guess Seneca, will start with you.
Just to recap, GPU SKUs are now available in public preview. If you are interested, feel free to go to aka.ms/win365GPU to express interest in that forum. We have a bunch of resources to learn more about what the preview entails at aka.ms/win365GPU docs and aka.ms/win365/GPU/blog. That one's a mouthful, but that's the blog post that we made, and you can find all types of detailed information there.
All right, Ben, what's takeaways for you?
Yeah, top of mind. So we have just started the private preview for our Cloud PC recommendations. Be on the lookout for that to be in a public preview in probably the first couple of months of next year. We are looking to bring that out and get some feedback on it. So be on the lookout for it. Also, we will include some Copilot functionality at the first half of next year. So be on the lookout for that too.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the ak.ms/w365 in development, as we are getting closer towards releasing. Look there for that information. And Pavithra, any takeaways for you?
All right. In summary, Windows app went into public preview on iOS, macOS, Windows, and web platforms. Do take a look at it, validate it, provide us feedback. For the installable apps, they're all available through the store today. And for the web, you can visit windows.cloud.microsoft, and you'll be able to experience it on the web. We will constantly be updating it. So make sure your auto update is enabled and provide us feedback. And for the docs, you can go to aka.ms/Windows app and learn more about the features today, known limitations, what's new, etc.
Perfect. Yeah, so this is the last Ask Microsoft Anything for this calendar year, but we still have some big announcements. So next week, we have our technical takeoff. You can learn a lot more about everything that was discussed today, plus all other developments in Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. So that's from November 27th through the 30th. We do have the short link, the ak.ms/tech takeoff/Windows in the cloud, and that's going to have all the sessions for Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. So please join us there. We made a lot of great content. We want to make sure that you get all the best information that you can, as we wrapped up and did so much for this calendar year cycle. So please join us there. The next Windows in the Cloud session, so not AMA, but the video with Christian Brinkoff, that's going to be, let's see, that's going to be next month, December 13th, and Christian's going to be interviewing Pavan Devaluri. He's the head of Windows and Devices. So this is really a can't miss event. So join us at ak.ms/Windows in the cloud. Again, that's going to be on December 13th. And then you can see more details again at the short link, that ak.ms/Windows in the cloud. Lastly, the next time you'll see me and other guests on the Ask Microsoft Anything, that's going to be January 17th of next calendar year, 2024. So mark your calendars. For that information, you can go to ak.ms/ama/Windows in the cloud. And you'll also be able to see this Ask Microsoft Anything and prior Ask Microsoft Anythings if you missed any content from Windows 365 or Azure Virtual Desktop. So, wow, we're really going out with a bang this month. A lot of great stuff. To my guest panelists here, thank you for your time. Thank you for all the work you've been doing in the product. I'm excited for all customers to start testing things out and start using this in their environment. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for listening in wherever you're joining us. If you have any holidays coming up, please enjoy them. Please relax. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.